Good afternoon, good morning, whichever applies appropriately. We're going to make a bracket today. If you go to your Google Classroom, you'll see that this model right here, this guide right here, this is actually called a drawing in engineering. This is an engineering drawing. We're going to model this thing. It basically looks like this. You can see there's some dotted lines in this image to show you that those holes go all the way through and this notch passes through there. So this is basically what we're going to model. We're going to try to follow the idea of simple sketches, multiple features on these. There are several ways to do some parts of it, but I'm going to do some parts of it in the simplest possible way as far as I'm concerned. There are other approaches. We will actually be using this part later on as well. So we want to make sure we get it right. By the way, the yellow smooth powder coat, I'm going to show you that trick as well, how to change the image to have certain coloration in Fusion 360. Anyway, we're going to Fusion 360. The first thing I would recommend you do is when you get Fusion open, on your top left-hand corner, we have the data panel. You can open that up. You do want to browse to something that makes sense for you. Now, for me, I have a main folder that I put just about everything in, and then from there, I have where is it here? Main folder for classes right here, and then under classes I have engineering, and under engineering I just have a whole bunch of different things here. So if you navigate to a location by following these guys here, and you can always go back by clicking home, but if you navigate to a particular location where you want to save something, when you create the part, it will naturally be stored in that location. So these are all parts and stuff I made for engineering. All right, so now I've got that done. I can close this. I know it's going to save in the right place. As I said in the prior video, we want to go to Assemble and add a new component right away. I want to call this component yellow bracket. Yellow bracket, and say OK. Now what it'll do is by default it'll have this one selected, which is what you want. If you go up to here and that one's selected, that's wrong. That black dot should be next to here, so you click on it over here in your browser and you click on that little black dot. You do want that selected. You'll notice that this, if you expand it, has its own set of origin, and then as you add sketches and features, they will also. Sorry, I've got an issue here with this thing. I need to. This is so irritating. You guys can't see it, but when you run Loom, there's an object that's over here on the left-hand side that causes issues sometimes. Oh, I moved it. Good, I got it to move. Awesome. Sorry about that delay. So yellow bracket, origin, and then as you add sketches and so forth, they'll add on to here as well. I'm actually going to minimize the origin thing to give me room to work. Okay, so when we take a look at our part, one of the first things we see is has like a base. And so we're going to model that base first. So we're going to make a sketch. We're actually going to put it on the top plane here. You can see this coincides with the word top there. Top there. Put it on the top there. I'm actually going to create rectangle, a center rectangle. I want the center of my drawing to be right here. I'm going to come up and over into this top right corner here. I'm not going to click right away, although I could, because I can type in some dimensions immediately. If I type in 6 down here, that's 6 inches. I hit Tab on my keyboard, and that takes me to the other dimension here, and I see that that's 2 inches there. So I have roughly a 6 by 2. You can see that on the drawing that's available here. That's the 6 inches here and the 2 inches there. 6 by 2 base we're going to be making. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch there. Then I'm going to go back and look at my drawing and see in this image. Here we go. Over here, we can see it's a 1/2 inch from the bottom of it to the upper surface. We'll go back later and cut out that bit in the back, but for now, 1/2 inch, 0.5. So let's go into here and let's extrude this by clicking extrude, and then the distance will be 0.5 inches. You could also type that in here if you don't want to type it over here. Either one works. Say OK. So that's our fundamental base there. Now, one of the first things you'll realize about it is that the corners are all rounded off. If you look right here, you see this corner is rounded at a radius of 0.5. For that, we'll use the fillet tool, which we used in the Lego video that we did last time we were together. You'll click on that edge and that edge. And if you accidentally click the face, just click it again. It unselects it. Click that edge, and then it's kind of irritating. I'm going to have to come up here to my view cube and rotate this thing around to be able to access that edge. And so there should be 4 edges here, 4 edges selected. Looking back at our drawing, we see that that's 0.5 inch radius. So we go into here and put in 0.5. You could also type the 0.5 in there. It wouldn't make any difference. Do make sure it says fillet, constant, and rolling ball. These things can be changed, but rolling ball is what we want there. Constant, you can also do chord length and stuff. And under fillet, there's like fillet, full rule fillet, full round fillet. We don't need those, we just want fillet. We will use full round fillet on this model, which is kind of cool. Anyway, say okay. And then as usual, I click home just to make sure everything looks right. So far, so good. Next thing I think I want to do on here is go ahead and make this cutout here. And you can see it's 0.25 from the underside downward. So that's fairly easy to model. I will go back into Fusion. I'm going to turn this thing over. I'm going to click here and roll it around like this. And I want to see the, click it a little bit further. I can see the word bottom. I'm going to click bottom there. I'm actually going to click, if you hover up here, you'll see little arrows in the top right. You click this one, it'll rotate it, but keep you facing the same face. So I like this better. All right, so now I'm looking at the bottom of the part, straight on, because I clicked the word bottom there. I'm going to start the sketch directly on this bottom here. Now I got the sketch done. This time, instead of doing a corner rectangle, I'm going to do a 2-point rectangle. I'm actually going to intentionally draw it way over here to the side and then force it to go into the center by adding some other geometry. So I'm going to make one point. I'm going to move my cursor down until I get that little blue X that tells me if I click now, it will place this corner directly on that edge. I'll click once there, and I'll come down to here. And don't go all the way to the middle or anything like that. Just come down here in the same place over on the left. So you get another blue X down here and click there. So there's my drawing of this thing, but it's clearly, not the right size and not the right place or anything like that. You'll also notice I still have my rectangle tool on. I can tell by looking at my cursor, it's got that weird little glyph next to it. I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard to turn off that tool. Next, I'm going to come up here and turn on the line tool, like this, line. And I'm going to go to the line type, and we did this in the Lego model. We're going to change the type of line we're drawing now to a construction line. I'm going to go to one corner of this rectangle and click, and down to the other corner of this rectangle and click again. And you pull away again. It might try to continue to draw lines. If it does, just hit escape, and hit escape a few times anyway. So now it's a little hard to see, but there's a diagonal line in there. It's sort of pinkish, kind of orange looking. It's hard to see. If you hover over it, it turns purple. What we want to do now is we want to make the midpoint of this line be the origin here. And to force that to happen, we're going to go up here to our constraints. So constraints are up here. This constraint right there, if you hover over that one, says coincident. That means one thing's going to be directly on top of another while looking at it from this plane. So I'm going to choose coincident. I'm going to go and I'm going to find the, oh, you know what? I apologize. I don't want coincident. Let me hit escape to turn that off. Instead, what I want is midpoint. So let's go to this one. It's the triangle. It's called midpoint. Click on that. Choose this line. And then go over and click on this guy here. And it'll slide everything over. So the midpoint of that diagonal line sits directly on the origin there. Okay, we're almost done. But you'll notice these two lines are still blue. And that's because we did not dimension this yet. If we look here, you can see that that thing appears to be in the center. That's why I put it in the center. And it's 1.5 inches wide. And it goes from the top edge all the way to the bottom edge. So we've done all of that except for the 1.5 wide. So let's go here. Let's turn on the sketch dimension tool. Let's click this line, then move over and click this line, and then move up to the middle. That's a 3-click dimensioning. We do a lot more 3-click dimensioning than 2-click dimensioning. The last click is always where you drop your your dimension for so that when somebody looks at it, they can find that number. So I clicked here, then I clicked here, then I moved up to here so I could see the number. It wouldn't get hidden by the part. And I click a third time there. So first click, second click. From here to there, put the number there is the way I think about it. And that dimension again, if you recall here, is 1.5 inches. Back into here, 1.5, type that in and hit enter. So now that cutout is in the right place. I'll click Finish Sketch. I'll click Home just to make sure I can see it. And see, you see it's on the bottom side, not on the top side. We're looking at the top when you click Home. So I'm actually going to roll it back over again so I can see that bottom side some. I'm going to choose the Extrude feature. So we're going to do a feature now. We've done a sketch, then you do a feature. I'm going to click on this part of the sketch. I'm going to change the operation to cut. And remember, when you do an extrusion, always check your operation first. Very, very common for kids to forget to check the operation, or anybody for that matter, forget to check the operation and they end up doing a new body, or they add when they want to cut, or things get confusing. So always check your operation right after you've selected your profile. So that's the profile we selected. Then I checked my operation, made it cut. Let me refer to my drawing again, and it looks like this cut is 0.25 inches down from there. So let's go into here, and we're going to change this to 0.25. Now, you'll notice we get an error. And the reason we get an error is if you look at this arrow, it's trying to cut away from the body, away from the part. We want to cut the other direction. So what we actually have to do is we have to change our distance to negative 0.25, and now it's cutting in the opposite direction. Say OK, click Home, and much of our design is complete. The next thing we want to do is, I guess what I want to do next is I'm going to put in these two holes, that hole and that hole. To do that, I'm actually going to create a center line and put in one and then use a mirror to put in the other. So let me show you how that works. We're going to first start off by doing a sketch. Do it on this top surface. And then I'm going to choose the line tool right here, line. And over here, I'm going to choose, over here on the right, I'm going to choose center line. That's different than a construction line. And the difference will be evident in a moment. I'm going to click on the origin, move straight up. If you move to the side a little bit, don't do that. Move so it's straight up. It should snap at 90 degrees. You see the 90 degree symbol appearing over there to the right. Do click at 90 degrees. You want to do that. Then you want to hit Escape to turn that tool off. So this is a center line. What we're going to do next is I'm going to make a center diameter circle. I'm just going to draw it in the wrong place like this. I will take a moment, come down here. Let's see, we want that to be 0.5 in diameter. Let me go back to Fusion, come around in here and go 0.5 and hit enter. So I got a half-inch circle, but it's in the wrong place. I'm actually going to pull this 0.5 dimension out like that. But it's in the wrong place. The first thing I know is I want the center of this to be horizontal with this guy. So I'm going to move it down to where it's approximately horizontal, like about right there is where we want it. And then I'm going to actually force it to be in the right place. First, I'm going to choose this constraint up here, the horizontal vertical constraint. I'm going to click that center point, and then I'm going to click the origin. And if I hit Escape now, you'll find that if you try to grab that center and try to move it up or down, it won't move up or down. It'll only move left or right. I'm going to pause for a minute here and let you think about that. So I made the center horizontal with the origin, and the size of it 0.5. I'm going to pull this out a little bit further so you can see it better. But you see, I can still move it left to right. I need to give it that dimension there. So let's take a look at this. Oh, it doesn't tell me the distance from the center to this hole. It tells me the distance between the two holes we're making. This is the reason I put in a center line, because you can measure equally from two sides of a center point if you put a center line in. So if I go into here and I turn on the sketch dimension, I can click the center line and then the center point of that circle. Oops, let me hit Escape. Let me do that again. Go from the center line to the center of that circle. And when I pull up, it by default gives me the distance to either side. It creates a symmetric dimension. I'll click a third time here and put in the number 4. I believe it's 4. Let me check. Yes, 4 inches. Put in the number 4 and hit enter. And notice it created one hole 4 inches from the side, one circle. That's not necessarily a problem. We'll click Finish Sketch. We will extrude that hole. We're going to cut it. So the dimension, operation be cut. We want to change our extent. We're not going to give it a distance. We're instead going to change extent type to through all, which is kind of cool. It still gives me, doesn't let me click OK because the arrow you'll notice is pointing in the wrong direction. What you do is you click Flip, and that will preview cutting through all of it. So I'm going to cancel that and do it one more time to make it easy for you. So we're going to extrude that circle as a cut. We're going to change our extent type to through all, the third option, and then we're going to flip it to cut through and say OK. Now that's only one hole, but it's not a problem. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to go to Create again, and there's an option called Mirror. Mirror. The object type, for some reason, Fusion always defaults to doing objects and bodies. We should do them as features. So I'm going to change the object type here under the mirror. By the way, I got mirror in case I went too fast. Create mirror. It's right there. That's how I launched it. And then I changed the box that showed up to features. Objects, I come down to my timeline down here and I click the most recent one. And it gives me a little highlight preview there you'll see when I hover over it. I'm going to click that. So now I've got one object selected. Now the mirror plane. I need to select the mirror plane. And when you do that, the planes do show up here, but they're really, really faint. So we're going to do something I think is has a funny name. We're going to come over here in our browser and we're going to hide the bodies. And when you do that, it allows you to see the plane. So under mirror plane select, we're going to select that plane right there. And it gives us a preview of where the other one should be. If we turn the body back on, you can see it's going to mirror it over to here. I'm going to say, okay. I'm sure I went too fast for some of you. Don't be afraid to pause the video and back up as necessary. All right, we're almost done, actually. All we have to do now is put these guys in here. And that happens pretty quickly, and I'll show you kind of a cool way to do that. What we're going to notice here is it seems to be centered on that same origin as we had for all the others. And it's going to be 1.75 this way and 1.5 that way. See over here in this drawing, it's 1.5 in this direction and 1.75 in that direction. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this thing a solid thing. I'm going to round it off with a hole in it. Then I'm going to come back and cut the middle out of it. I'm going to make it as one big chunky rounded over thing and then come back and cut the middle out. So it's 1.5 by 1.75 is a rectangle we're going to draw on that face. And then we're going to extrude it upward 1.75 tall. 1.75 by 1.5. So let's go into Fusion. Let's create a sketch on this top surface. It's going to be a center rectangle with its center right there. Okay. It's going to be 1.75 wide, tab, 1.5 tall. Enter. Now, if you didn't do the tab, if you hit enter by accident, in other words, if these numbers you didn't put in when you did it, I'm just going to delete them now just to show you another way you could dimension it if you didn't do that right. You can turn on the sketch dimension, click this side, that side, pull down here and type in 1.75 and hit enter. And then click this side to that side and pull out here to this and type in 1.5 to there. And so we have it 1.5 by 1.75. Okay. And I made a small error that isn't evident to, maybe not be evident to you right now, but I can tell because this is still blue and I expect it to be fully defined. I believe the center of the circle, yeah, I did not actually get it to successfully snap to the middle. Now it snapped to the middle. I drug it to the right spot, and it's right. So after you put your dimensions in, it should turn black. If it doesn't, it's because you had the error I had where you didn't actually drop it on the center, and so it still could be moved. Let me drop it directly on that center, and that makes it centered. All right, so got that. I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to extrude that part. If we go back into here, we'll see that the top of that curve comes to 1.75 inches. So this extrusion distance here, I'll type it in here this time, 1.75 inches. Hit enter. Now, that doesn't look much like what we want, but we're going to fix that shortly. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to round this thing off. So we're going to do a fillet, but now this fillet is going to be different than the last time. This time, instead of fillet, we're going to go up here and we're going to choose full round fillet. And again, I did that kind of fast. Let me tell you. Fillet is under the modify menu, and it's that symbol there, and you click it once, and it brings up this dialog box. The dialog box, go to full round fillet, and it's kind of interesting. It says to select a center face. Now, if I go here, it's giving me a preview. I'm on this gray top, and it's saying make the blue and the other. So the blue part is the part it's going to round to. If I click right now, it's going to round it in the wrong direction. So I'm going to move my cursor over this way a little bit, more toward this edge. And now it's saying the gray is the top, and the blue I'm looking at is one of the sides that'll go around. If I click right now, and I'm going to click right now and show you, this is what you should do. Oops, that didn't do right. So I'm going to click X again, and go back to here, try it again here. There, that's the way I want it to curve over. So you see the difference. If you click the X here, if I click here while this side over here is blue, it's going to round that direction. If that's not what I want, I can go back up and move until this face over here turns blue. Now I click like that, it rounds in the proper direction. You can see, you can go all kinds of weird stuff. I could click here and get it to round that way. I could click here and get it to round that way. For some reason, it keeps wanting to do that. I don't even know. Yeah, that gives an error. That's what I thought. But the one we want is we want to click on this one with that guy face blue. So we click here like that. That's the orientation we want. I say OK. Now, that full round fillet, what it does is it keeps the very top point right where the top of that square was. So this does still measure 1.75 from here to the apex of this circle. The next thing we see here, if we look back at our drawing, it's got a hole that goes through, and that hole is really on the same center as this, but it says this 1 inch up. So we're just going to make a circle 1 inch up, but we're going to make it directly over the origin to make this hole here. So let's do that. We're going to make a sketch on this face. You zoom out and zoom back in again, get that pretty. Make a center diameter. So I'm actually going to put it in the wrong place to begin with. Oh, I don't remember what size it needs to be. Let me go look at this. It needs to be a 1/2 inch in diameter. Let me show you where I saw that. That's right here, 0.5 diameter and 1 inch up, and it looks like it's on the center. So that's where we're going to put it. So let's make a circle here, 0.5 in diameter, and hit enter. Now, you'll notice that circle could be literally anywhere. We want it directly above the origin. So I'm going to move it where it's approximately directly above the origin. I'm going to choose this constraint up top here, horizontal, vertical, and then I'm going to click on the origin. And that'll force it, I'll hit escape, that'll force it now where it can't move left or right, it can only move up or down. And that's what we want, we'll be able to move it up or down. Then the next thing we do, let's go back into our drawing here. It's 1 inch from this surface up to that center. That's that 1 inch right there. Let's go into here. Let me dimension from here to the center of the circle over, to the center of the circle over here, make that 1 inch. There we go. Notice it's all black now. I'm going to finish the sketch. I'm going to extrude this hole as a cut. And you can pause this if I'm going too fast. The extent will be through all, and I'll need to flip it so that I get the OK. In fact, if I click here, the home button, you can see if I have it flipped this way, it tries to extrude it out and doesn't know where to go. So I have to flip it that way to cut through. I say, OK, we are almost done with this part. The last thing we have to do is we have to cut that center part out. And the way to do that is we're going to make a, well, first let's check my dimensions here. I'm going to want it to be 1.25 wide. That's that number right there. So let me go to here. Let me make a sketch on the surface. I'm going to do a center rectangle with the center on the origin, like that. I'm going to come up and I'm going to make the edge. If you look carefully, you'll see there's a little blue triangle. See a little blue triangle right there that shows up when I'm on this surface. So I'm going to click there. If you zoom out and you hit escape, you'll see that there is a rectangle there, but the top edge lies right along there and the bottom edge lies along the center is right in the middle. Now all I have to do is dimension it. And I'll go from this edge to that edge up this way, and I want it to be 1.25. Let me double check that measurement. 1.25, yes. 1.25, I hit enter. Okay, I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to extrude that rectangle. I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut through all, and this time I need to be careful. I'm going to come up here and click the home button and look. Yes, it is cutting in the right direction. If it were cutting downward like that, that would be a mistake. I want it to cut upward like that. And when I click OK, my part is finished. Last thing to do, I do want to make it the color yellow, and I'll show you how to do that. You hover over the name of the component here, right click on it, and you can go to Appearance. The Appearance tool that pops up has, in this design, the only color it currently has is steel satin. So you actually have to add, so if you scroll in here, go to Paint down here. Under Paint, let's go to Powder Coat Smooth, and you'll see yellow as an option. Grab that yellow and first drag it up into here, and then you can click it, then you can click and drag it over to here, and it'll make it yellow, which is kind of cool. Click Close, we'll go Save, call it Yellow Bracket. This should be the same place that you navigated to at the very beginning of the video, and you click Save. Your file is saved. It's all done. It's beautiful. Good work. Have a great day.